So here we have an empty list view, so let's remove this for now. And what we need to add here is a stream builder because we want to read the data in real time and display it on the screen. So we're going to call stream builder. And then it will take two main properties. So we'll take the stream itself and the builder, which will be a function which takes in a context and a snapshot. So the stream is going to point to the messages collection. So we're just going to call _db dot collection and then messages, which is the name of the collection. And then the data, we want it to be ordered. So we can say order by, and then use the created at field, and then set descending to be true. And then we're going to call dot snapshots, which is going to give us a stream for this collection. So now let's see how we're going to handle messages coming in. So first let's check the connection state. So we're going to say if snapshot dot connection state equals to connection state dot waiting. And then similar to what we've done previously, we want to render a circular progress bar. So we can say return and then center child will be circular progress indicator with the color being colors.white. And this will be a constant value. Now if we're not waiting, let's check if there is an error. So we're going to say if snapshot has error. And if it does, we're going to return const center with the child, and then we add text saying failed to fetch messages. Next, if the data is available to us, so we're going to say if snapshot.has data, and for now let's just add a comment saying handle messages, and then otherwise let's just return const size box dot shrink. So just return nothing. So you can think of it as a placeholder. Now let's see how we're going to handle messages that come in. So here we're going to say return list view dot builder, and then let's add the different properties. So I'll start off with the item count. So the item count will be snapshot dot data dot docs dot length. So the data that's coming in is of type query snapshot. So if we do query snapshot, and this object has a docs property, which is all the documents that are coming from Firebase. And then we can get the length. So the docs is just an array, and then we can call length to get the size of that array. And next, the item builder will add a function, and it will take in the context and an index for every item in this array. Now let's also add two more properties. So first we'll make reverse equals to true. So basically we want new messages to appear at the bottom. And then let's also add a scroll controller. So we'll say controller is equals to underscore scroll controller, which we will create. So at the top here, we can say final underscore scroll controller is equals to scroll controller. Now the reason we need this is that when the user types a message and then sends it, we need to scroll all the way to the bottom and then show it to them. And in order to do that, in the send message handler, we can call underscore scroll controller dot jump to, and then we're going to call scroll controller dot position dot min scroll extent. Now let's go back to the list view builder. So let's see how we're going to render every item in the list. So first let's get the message. So we're going to say final message equals to snapshot dot data and then dot docs, and then pass in the index. So this will give us the particular document that's available to us here. And then we want to render it in a row. Now if we look again at the design, you can see here we're creating this row, and then this row will render a message container. And we're creating a row because we want to set the alignment based on whether you are the one that sent the message or someone else did. So under the message, we're going to return a row. And then let's add a main axis alignment property, and this will depend on the user. So we're going to say user.uid equals to message at ID. So if the current user is the one that sent the message, we're going to call main axis alignment we want dot end, and then otherwise do main axis alignment dot start. Now we're going to have one child, and then we want to have that child being aligned differently, right? So the child will be a container, and then this container will have a column. So the column will have the different fields, so we can have the name, the message, and the timestamp of when this message was sent. So we'll start off by adding the name. So we're going to say message at name, and we need to cast that as a string. Now let's also add some styling. So we're going to say style, so text style, and let's add the color to be colors.white. Let's also make the font weight to be font weight.bold, and let's make this a constant. So as you can see here, for the first message, you can see my name showing up. Under text, let's add a size box. So we can say const size box, and then give it a height property of 4. And then the second field will be the actual message content. So we'll say message at message, add a string. And for the styling, let's copy what we have here, but instead of bold, we'll just have the color property. After that, let's also add another size box, and then we'll also give it a height of 4. Now for the timestamp, we're going to use a library called timeago, and this will allow us to format the text. So from a timestamp, we can show, for example, 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. And for that, we need to import this line right here. So let's go back here, go back to the top, and then import that. And in order to use it, we can go back down here, and then we'll just use a text field or a text widget, and then say message at created at. Now this value could be null, and I'll explain in a second why that's the case. So we need to check if it's null or not. And then if it is null, we can do a few things, either display nothing, or we can have a placeholder message. So for now, we'll display nothing, but then we're going to change it later on. And then we're going to use the timeago library, and then call .format, and then pass in message at created at, and call .toDate. And then cast this as a datetime object. And let's also set the styling. So we're going to say style, and then we're going to use one of the styles that were given to us by the theme. So we're going to say theme dot of context, and then dot text theme dot caption dot copy with, and we'll give the color to be colors.gray, and then 200. Now right now they're all centered aligned, so we want to align to the left. So in the column widget, we're going to say cross axis alignment to be cross axis alignment dot start. Now let's change the background color of the message. So in the container widget, we're going to say decoration, and then box decoration, and then the color will be dependent on the user. So we can say user.uid equals to message at ID as a string, and if that's the case, we're going to render k purple color, otherwise we render k light gray. So right now you can see that it's a purple color. Now let's also add a border radius within the decoration. So we're going to say border radius equals to border radius dot circular, and then make it 16. Now you can see that there is no padding at all, so let's add some padding. So here we can say padding equals to const edge insets dot all 16, And then let's also add some margins around the chat bubble itself. So we're going to say margin equals to const edge insets dot symmetric, and then horizontally we're going to give it 16, and vertically we're going to give it 8. Now we also need to limit the size of the container, so let's add some constraints, and then we're going to say box constraints with a maximum width of 300. That way the chat bubble can't take the size of the entire screen. So let's test this out. So if we say hey, now as you can see, for a fraction of a second the timestamp didn't appear, and this is why here we're calling created at is equals to null or not. Now this is because we're using the server timestamp, so by the time the data goes there and then comes back, that's why it's not available to us. And what I'm guessing is that Firebase tries to optimize this by showing it on the client before it's officially committed on the database. So a quick way to fix this is to just show a moment ago right away, so it doesn't appear that there is some sort of lag. So if I type something else, so what's up, right away you can see that a moment ago appears, even though that this might be a bit hard coded. Now other ways we could do this is not show the chat bubble at all if the created at field is null. Another thing, we can choose to omit the a moment ago if the created at field is null. So this pretty much concludes the development of the app. So I'm gonna quickly just go over the flow. So if we go to main.dart, we have the stream builder here. So the stream builder is gonna check the authentication status, and then it's gonna be either null or a user is available to us. If the user is available to us, means that the user is signed in, so we want to go directly to the chat screen. So here, if the snapshot has data, so if the user is available to us and the user has their email verified, then we go to the chat screen. Otherwise, assuming we have no error and that we're not loading, we can show the login screen. Now if we look at the login screen and we look at the authentication, we call sign in with email and password. Now this is going to change the authentication state, and then in main.dart, this stream that we have right here will be called again because the authentication state changed. And then we are going to render the chat screen. And if in the registration screen, we have create user with email and password. Now this also calls the authentication state change. Now when this is called and the authentication state change is called, if we go back to main.dart here, so when we come here from the sign up, the user has not yet verified their email. So that's why we're not going to go into the chat screen yet. And that's why we call authentication.signout, because we want to get rid of this auth object. Otherwise, if we don't call the signout method, what happens is the user is available to us in the auth state. So if the user signs up and then signs in, the user is already available to us in the auth state. So the auth state change will not be called again, and then we wouldn't go in the chat screen. However, calling the signout allows us to clear this auth object, and then the login screen will be able to call login and then send the auth state.